Today, we're looking at a black ink by Atramentis, Johann Sebastian Bach, or black. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. There's timestamps down below so that if you want to skip around, you can, but if you got the time, check out the entire video. You can follow me over on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Kaweco brass sport with a broad nib. I wrote with it for a day and used it to take the notes for this video. For the first writing sample, I use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. What are you doing, pens? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 9 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're not getting it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 11 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. Just want to really look at the smear. It's like red leaning here. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for the extra fine shows some color variation, the medium shows none, but we got none in the writing at all. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this is probably the most interesting black chromatography that I've seen. Across the bottom we see a nice dark green that's pushing its way up. We see a sort of a blue, it's a very dark blue, and then a very vivid red, which explains a bunch of the red lean that we see in a bunch of stuff, even though the ink comes across as a black while writing. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And that dark green, very fixed into the filter paper. Only a little bit of it is pushing up. We still see the blue. We still see that very bright red. We even start to see some water separation between the blue and the red over their distance traveled. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I don't use this in a note-taking situation because of the blowout that has occurred with the lowercase h. Now, before we get to the water, it's very interesting because the swab of this black is a very dark magenta swab, but it writes black, so this is an incredibly interesting ink for that reason. Now, water is lifting some of the darkest tones, but really leaving that green behind on the paper. Water was not enough to get this out of my pen. Pen flush is starting to break up that green ink just a little bit. Pen flush is all that I actually used to get it out of my pen. The 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper. It stains the paper a brown a little bit, but I didn't need to use it to get it out of my pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations. Atramentis Black has a viscosity of 2.21, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. The Atramentis Black has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making this a faster drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like the Atramentis Black, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a very nice blue, a bright blue, Robert Oster's School Blue. The second writing sample is done on Life, Viscosity, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Life paper. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any. Apica. No bleeding, no ghosting. No goating, yes. No goating here. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we don't get any. And last up, Franklin Christoph paper with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 4 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any in the writing, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Atramentis Johann Sebastian Bach, or Black? This goes down and it kind of reminds me of watercolor a little bit. It goes down much darker than it dries. It lightens up as it dries. Now, it is a good solid performing black ink. It's the lightening as it dries that is what I don't care for. What nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I think a very wet fine is going to put down a really solid black for you. If you're using a drier broad, you're going to start to see a little bit of a magenta tone come through that seems to be underneath in this black ink. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.